All right, let's open with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I want to welcome everyone to the Atlanta Step Up Society book study. The name of our book study is Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. You know, we're studying the chapter called We Agnostics, and we're on page 46. But before I start going into the book, I want to explain something about agnostics. When I speak about God, I'm talking about my own conception. I'm talking about my own spiritual growth, where I started, how I view it. Everybody is different. I'm not God, and I'm not the inventor of spirituality. I just happen to follow the path that was in this book, that was outlined for me before I got here, and I do know it works. But I want to tell you that to allow you to know that this is all inclusive. Everyone in here is allowed to think and respond to God any way you want to. So please don't be prejudiced. Stay open-minded. The things I tell you, you might not be, where I am. You might come from a different religion than mine. It doesn't matter. I just don't want no one to be prejudiced. Get it? Don't judge it. Stay open-minded. You hear someone talk about how they view things in this spiritual teaching that we're going to have. Just become open-minded and allow people to share and think the way they want to think. That's the ground rules of this. All right? I'm going to give you some examples about agnostic. It's a hard, sometimes subject to talk about. And it's kind of hard because I know about me. I can't say about y'all. But all through my upbringing, all through the churches that I attended, and all through my family history, I never heard the word agnostics. Not one person, not one preacher said the word agnostic. I heard atheist and hell kind of go together. But I never heard agnostic until I picked up this book. And then when I started looking into it, it said unknowing or need proof. And that's about as far as it went. So that got me confused. So the best way I could do it is explain it the way I understand it, that to my own conception. That makes sense? So this is the way I know about me. I'm 58 years old. Been clean 20 years. Was using for, let's say, 25 years. Homeless a lot of those years. Always in tough spots. DUIs, you know what I'm trying to say? Always in tough spots. I can honestly tell you that I have always, since agnostic means unknowing or unknowledgeable of God or need proof about God, I can honestly tell you I searched for God for a lot of years. When I find myself about ready to get skint down, walking the street homeless, I needed God. But I always looked outside myself for God. I did a lot of searching outside. I told y'all that I would I walking homeless, penniless, destitute, nothing on earth. I did not even own one single dime. And I didn't know where my next dime was going to come from unless I found it on the ground. So I would search for God. They told me heaven was in the sky, so I know it wasn't on earth with me. So I kind of looked through the clouds searching for God. I just knew I was going to see Jesus in the car. He's going to rescue me. Spent a lot of years doing that. I read a lot of stuff about Christianity and this. I read books in the library, homeless. You know, that's one of our spots, hangout spots, is the library. So, and then I stayed confused all the time. I loved the Bible. I was searching for God in the Bible. You know, later on I found out that a crackhead reading the Bible is a crackhead reading the Bible. You know, alcoholic reading the Bible is just an alcoholic reading the Bible. So I didn't see and didn't get in my life what I was really trying to accomplish. That makes sense? And I would read this. The stories were great. In the Bible, I love the stories. You know, but I stayed confused. It was always in conflict. And, you know, and I was like, the very first, like Adam and Eve, the very first people, I always stay confused. The very first people on earth were with God. Why did they have to mess up? They were the first two people. Why you couldn't wait till you get billions? Why you had to be the first two? Give somebody a chance. You know? Why we got to die from the first? I'm always confused. That makes sense? Yeah. And then I read that they ate off an apple tree. Apple tree. And at the time, it was the forbidden fruit, right? But I'm eating the apple reading it. This don't make no sense. Then I Google apples, you know, a certain, how many, you know, in the world. This is something. I was always confused. That's all I'm saying. I'm not conflicting anything. I'm just talking about, I know I didn't know God because everything was confusing to me. If you look in any dictionary or any encyclopedia or now today internet and see how many type of apples there is on earth, the variety of apples on earth, anybody got an idea? 7,000. It's 7,500 types of apples on earth worldwide. 7,500 types. In America, there's 2,500 types of apples just in our country. Now wait a minute. You mean to tell me we can't eat apples? So when I'm not going against it, I'm not a preacher. I'm just saying it was confusing to me. That makes sense? All the stories and all the wars, so I stayed confused. I was confused. I go to churches and they would pray for me. Thank God they did. Put oil on me. And I go right back out and use. But I was searching. So that means I was unknowledgeable, right? And if I'm unknowledgeable about this God, I'm agnostic, correct? Right. So I come into the fellowship and get up to the fellowship. And in the fellowship, for the first time, I heard people say, Jesus in you. Greater than he that's in you, than he that's in the world. But it wasn't impacting my life. I didn't have no power. So I really didn't grasp this thing about agnostic because I was still unknowledgeable. I had no idea about God. I searched for God for 20-something years. Then I come into, let's say I come into the fellowship, and you guys tell me it's an inside job. God's on the inside. Okay. Now I'm more confused. If it's on the inside of me, and I've been searching outside, now where do I go? Because I've been with me for a long time, and I ain't recognized no God. You know, I'm being honest. I ain't seen no God, and no signs of God. If it was something on the inside of me, it started with a D. It wasn't God. So I had no clue. I had no clue about a God that's inside of me because I've been living with me all the time. That was more confusing than anything. That's still, if you're confused and you're unknowledgeable and you've been searching and you need proof, that's agnostic, correct? So here I am, confused again, inside this program. Then y'all told me, just start small, get your own conception of my God. Well, to make a long story short, I'm going to let the book do the rest. I found out by doing the steps what God was. there is a God in me. Now, I'm coming forward after doing the steps and being around the step. And I found out that it was what it was for me. There was things inside of me that blocked me from God. Now, if I don't remove them things, then I'm not going to find no God, because I got too much stuff blocking God. That makes sense? Inside every man and woman, or inside anything that's alive, God is there. God was blocked in me and everybody else. So I had to do some things to remove this stuff that blocks the Spirit of God from coming out and growing in my life. That second me that I talk about, it said self-centeredness. I'm just going to throw out some terms and you'll know where we're headed, because it's going to start in the next chapter. Resentments block God. Fears block God. Fears block God. If you got a head full of fears, you're not down with God. Dishonesty. Low self-emotions. Low self-esteem. Blaming others. Inconsiderate. Harming others. All these stuff is blocking God. So, yes, I was confused. But after you work these 12 steps and have this stuff removed from you, then the God that's inside of you can grow and shine and become a part of your life and start to dominate your life. So, step 1 is the disease concept. We know we have a disease. Step 2 is where we make a start, small, to walk a spiritual path, which is some steps that can free you from all that garbage to allow a God of your understanding to emerge into your life. That makes sense? That's where we are, and that's what this book is about. This book is about, it says, obviously, but where and how were we to find his power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. This book is a path that's a guide, a spiritual path that'll lead you to a God of your own understanding. That makes sense? And our fellowship is so, like, unique, because once you come into our fellowship and you start getting clean and sober, you will get the material stuff, the outside stuff. The same place that I was looking for God, if I didn't have a house or apartment or a room, now I got one. I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have a job, now I got a job. I'm blessed. So the outside stuff you're going to get, we will get in the, by sticking around. But that's not the spiritual part of the program. Right. That's not the God of your understanding, unless you want it to be. But there's more growth in our program than just accumulating stuff. You know, I talk to people all the time, and I'm grateful that you got a car. You proud, I'm proud. But it's a lot more than the car. You know, I saw a story last night, and then I'm going to, this would make sense, and then we're going to read. I was watching the Animal Planet, and they had this, the frozen planet, and they was talking about, they showed this polar bear, and the polar bear was in either the South Pole or the North Pole, and she was pregnant, and it was a time when the winter was coming, and she was pregnant, and she built this little hole in the ground, and she laid down, and then the winter storm covered her up, and they stayed there like 5 months, you know, 4 or 5 months, because it's all dark, and the snow comes, and it's just a frozen planet, frozen part of the earth, huge. So the mother bear is in the cave, and the 2 little cubs were born. And this fascinated me, because I like stuff like that. And the little two cubs was in there, and the narrator was speaking about how peaceful they were. They were inside, and the mother was there. They had plenty of milk, and they were just moving and, you know, doing their little thing. And they were at total peace. And the narrator was explaining how peaceful it was. Then he said, whoa, boy, you wait till spring come. You know, spring gonna come, that ice gonna melt. And then they got to see this world. Well, all the confusion is, well, their life depends on something other than their mother. That makes sense? And I thought about us. You know, we need that peace. Well, I do. I don't know about y'all. I need that peace that them cubs have. Because I did it backwards. I came from my mother, but I saw that world that they going to be introduced to. I saw that first. And by the grace of God in their program, it allows me an opportunity to pull back from that world and go into that little peace and stay there and live the rest of my life there. That's a beautiful thing to me. That's what this program do. You don't have to live in that chaotic world like that. You can withdraw from it into an area of peace and serenity. And that was the word they use? You could be like them little cubs and live peace. I'd rather live in peace than back out where I was. All right, tonight I'm gonna read. Y'all know why. I want to read it right now, Derek. All right, page 46. Yes, we of agnostic temperament have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power with a capital P greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God. And I kind of already spoke a little bit about that. I didn't know what God was. And I'm in here and I still don't know what God was or is. I really don't know. So I can't define it. That's the end of that paragraph right there. Let's go to the next one. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with Him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms for those who seek Him. To us, the realm of the Spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidden to those who earnestly seek. It is open, we believe, to all men. Let's go back and break it down. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another conception of God. That was a big eye-opener to me. Because I've been following everyone else's conception of God and religion and stuff like that, and I wasn't getting nowhere. Nowhere. I tried my mama way, nothing but alcohol and drugs. I tried going to treatment center without the 12 steps, nothing. I tried going to the library and reading on my own, nothing, nothing. And so I was always thinking in my mind, who can I follow? You know, I remember one time I was using, and I went to a little restaurant, and one of the famous pastors here in Atlanta was sitting in the restaurant eating, and everybody was up shaking his hand. He was a real top pastor. And I was in there, and I like, man, I just want to go over there and just follow him. When he get up, I just want to grab his shirt and just go with him. That's how desperate I was to find another God. But even then, I was going to get his conception, not mine. You know? And then when I came in here, y'all said, get your own. And that kind of hit hard because my mother and them were really on me about going to church and doing stuff and getting spiritual stuff. And they were really getting on my nerve. You know, I had tried your way, Mom, and it didn't work. So when they said, I think it was like Bill and Bob, you know what I'm saying? I said, y'all told me I can get my own. That was a relief. Yeah. I didn't know what I was going to get, but I knew it wasn't going to be no chair. Then I came up with my own. God, just don't let me use today. That was simple. That's why I started. I didn't know nothing about no steps. I didn't know nothing about no resentments. I just know what I heard y'all say. But I didn't know I had to do it myself. That makes sense? I just know that it was there, and I heard all this stuff, but I could start small, just keep me clean and sober today. That was enough. And it worked. It really did work. I was going to the train station one morning, and I was on my way there, and in the treatment center, they had told me, if you ever walk across some drugs, don't pick it up. Just walk by it, whatever, don't touch it. I was going to the train station one morning, and I walked by and I seen some. They told me don't pick it up, and I went right down and grabbed it. About 4 months clean. And I had been going to meetings for 4 months, 2, 3 a day, because that's when we went to meetings. Y'all new guys didn't want to do 1 or 2 a week. We were doing 4 a day. So I was holding in my hand. I knew the serenity prayer. I'd been saying it day and night. I had memorized it. Saying it every meeting. Say it before I go to bed at night. Say it when I wake up in the morning. I had that drug in my hand. I said, I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even say the serenity prayer. I said, I know what's wrong. I done picked it up. I dropped it. I squashed it with my feet so no one else can get it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I knew it came back. My spirituality came back. That's when I said, you know what? This God thing worked. Then my stupidity, that's the only thing that saved me. But God, just keep me clean and sober today. Later on, I found out that what God doing for me, what I could do